let's all welcome Eric Basir.
First and foremost, I'd express my gratitude for waking up this morning, and I was up early and I did feel that quake. I am not exaggerating. It was quite interesting, but I'm glad that that's all it was. It's just a little tremor, you know, and we hope that that's all it will be. Okay, quick survey. How many of you have computers at home? Okay, just checking. How many of you have some type of photo editing software where you work on pictures? Okay, how many of you have a scanner, like a flatbed scanner? Great. Okay, and how many of you have never used that flatbed scanner? Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Okay, okay. So this class may go a little bit over your head, but tomorrow there's one that specializes in flatbed scanning. This one is for people who have used the flatbed scanner before and need to work on some documents. Okay. Quick presentation here. There's many ways to restore a document scanned from a flatbed scanner, photographed with a film or digital scanner. Have any of you photographed a document? Had to photograph? Okay. And generally, it's because you can't put it on the flatbed scanner. Either they're not going to give it to you, or it's too big, that kind of thing. Or you've downloaded them from the internet. Are there any other ways that you've gotten a document into your computer that isn't mentioned here? So generally it's going to be a flatbed, or you're going to be using a camera to photograph it. But I like to ask that question because you never know. Now, when you're scanning documents with a flatbed scanner, you have advantages and disadvantages, and that's with everything. Now, the first thing, of course, is it's fast, okay? And it can maintain a lot of the details. Now, that sort of depends on the scanner quality, okay, and how you're using it, and we'll get into that next. But generally, you can count on it to be one of those or both of those things. Now, the disadvantage is when you have an oversized document, okay? And either you're going to have to do the copy shot, or you're going to have to scan it in parts and stitch it together in Photoshop. The quality of the scan is constrained by your scanner or you. Because sometimes if you are not fully confident in using that scanner, sometimes you might mess up your resolution or the wrong file format, and the scan won't be that nice. The other thing is difficulty of capturing true colors from non-ink-based details. Do you know what that is? It's a big, long description there, but I think I have, this is one example is this fine, it's from here it's really hard to see, but this is a letter, and it has embossed flowers, so that the flower shapes were punched into the paper. Your scanner's not going to be able to get that. That's three-dimensional. There's also other things, but a copy photo might be able to at least give you the appearance of an embossing detail. And I think I saw another one with reflective, no. But sometimes when they paint with a reflective type of paint, it might have a little glitter in it. Yeah. You know, and I'm talking about, these are old documents. Your scanner isn't going to capture that because the light from the scanner hits those reflective particles, and they end up looking flat. So if something was gold, literally looked like gold paint, had that look, the scanner won't get it. The only way to get that is with your camera, okay? Now you might be able to get it in an offset press, but that's going to take a lot of it's going to be very expensive, you know, to do that kind of thing, and it really isn't worth your time. Now, when you're shooting, photographing documents with a camera, it's easy for documents that are larger than a flatbed surface, as we discussed, and it's perfect for on-location situations. So you're at the museum, you're at an archive, you're at someone else's house. Bring a camera, bring your tripod, make sure it's got a lot of resolution, turn off the filters, and you probably won't need a flash, especially if it's on a tripod. And sometimes if you take it outside in an overcast day or in lighting that's overcast, you can really get good light outside. The sun is the best light source, okay? And of course, you know, you should be careful when you're doing that. Now, of course, that leads to the disadvantages, and a cheap camera is going to give you more trouble than it's worth, okay? You really got to get a camera that has, I would say, 8 to 10 megapixels will really do justice for a nice document, okay? And you got to have a little basic understanding of photography, okay? You got to understand your element of focus, okay? And you got to use a tripod. If not a tripod, you have to put it on something. Or if you hold the camera, don't breathe, don't move, okay? And that takes some training, but you can do it. The other part is when you do a copy shot, the finer details in the document can be obscured, even with a high-resolution camera. So if you're going to deal with a document with very fine details, and I'm not saying so much writing as let's say I have here a naturalization record, okay? And it has fine engraved details on the side, kind of like your dollar bill. Yeah. Those kind of details can be obscured with the camera. So if you're picky about that, you want to shoot some close-up pictures of that too. So shoot your overall and then shoot some close-up pictures, okay? And the same goes for portraits of people. If you have to do a copy shot of a portrait of a person, do the overall and then do a close-up of the face. Because the eyes are the window to the soul, and if the eyes are sharp, and the eyebrows and these details are sharp, the picture looks great, no matter what. So when you download documents from the internet, well, you know it's fast, and you know it's easy for the people giving it to you, generally. Now the disadvantage is, I call it low resolution roulette. Anybody have an idea what that might mean? Anything. Yeah, anything. You know, low resolution, try to print low resolution, and it looks really fuzzy, okay? And low resolution is the standard for the internet. Now, many archives, I think like the Thomas website, you know, the government archives, generally places like those, they have high-res, NASA, you know, you can get these huge high-res images without a problem and print them out. And the other disadvantage is, of course, forgery, okay? You do have to be careful what you're getting from the internet because there's a whole lot of forgery. All right, so there we go. Now you can go. No, don't go. I'm going to sit and do some work and talk. And my head's going to go a little bit over here, but it's not going to be in the way. And we want to get started on a couple things. I had my, excuse me. Here it is. I want to deal with a very popular type of original, and that's called newsprint. Yeah. Okay? And newsprint can present all kinds of interesting problems. And I brought a sample. This one This sample has just text. It's basically an obituary, okay? All right. And then there's a photo here, but that's an ad. That's not part of the obituary. And how many of you have noticed when you're scanning newsprint, after you're done with it, whether it's on screen or you print it out, it's got all these weird mottled patterns in it, these swirlies, you know. Anybody know what that's called? Moire, exactly. And that moire is caused by the fine patterns of the dots that make up the image on the paper. Okay, because a photo in a news that's printed is not a continuous tone photo. It's not like the ones you get from the lab. It's actually an illusion of a photo of different little dots, different colored dots, rotated in certain degrees. All right. Now on the flatbed, I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to hit the preview button. It's always important to preview your scan before you go ahead and scan it so that you get the size right, the cropping right. And it's warming up. I thought I warmed you up before we started because I knew it would say it's warming up. Okay.
What brand are you using?
Okay, this is what brand am I using? I'm using an Epson V350. And this is a very nice portable flatbed scanner. It also has an attachment for negatives and 35 millimeter negatives and slides. Now let's do the picture first. This is the Epson software. This comes with the Epson printer. This is just the scanner software. Every scanner you have comes with its own software. And then when I'm done, I plan to work on these in Photoshop. Now, when you're scanning your newsprint images, okay, not necessarily the text, but the images, you have to look for a filter in your scanner software called descreening. Descreening. Okay? It's a descreening filter. It's in your handout. I did put that detail there. And here it is close up for you. I'm going to check descreening, and then the setting or the ruling is going to be for newspaper. Now, if I had a magazine or fine print, and fine print are also offset print, but an art magazine, that type of thing. But newspaper is 85 lines per inch. That's going to be okay. Now, to do a comparison, I actually am going to do it with descreening on and off. I want to double check my resolution. Let me get out of this zoom here. There we go. Up here at the top says resolution. Okay. Now, resolution is commonly known as DPI, dots per inch, but it's technically pixels. It actually should be pixels per inch, but it means the same thing. It ends up being the same thing. 300 is a good number. I also want to make sure that I'm scanning it in color. Okay? Everything I scan, especially images, there are some exceptions, but when it comes to images, you want to scan them in color. Later on, you'll convert them. Anybody know why? Raise your hand. If you know, raise your hand. No. If you're not sure, okay, go in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Pick up shading better?
Pick up shading close. You're getting close. It's more detail. It's more detail. Because you have 3 channels of color. When you're scanning in grayscale or so-called black and white, you're scanning in 1 channel of color, so there's less detail. And let's demonstrate all of this. Okay? Okay, now we're scanning this picture in color with the descreening filter. And the descreening filter basically just tells the scanner to slightly blur the image. That's what it's doing, giving you the illusion that it's gotten rid of the dots. But basically it's done a very fine blur. You can do that manually, but I find that this one, the descreening filter in the scanner software, tends to be more accurate. Okay, now hold on. Now we're going to rescan. We're going to do it without. Without the descreening filter. Everybody all right? Okay. Now every scanner has slightly different software, but generally they all have the same features. Okay? They may call it something a little different, but they have it. And if you have a question when you get home, you say, what did he do? You know, you can call me or email me, and I might be able to just walk you through it. Okay. Okay? Now, not done. I also want to do one in grayscale. Okay? Now, I know you see up here, you see 48-bit, 16-bit. 48-bit color is what you call high definition color. Unless you're shooting, unless you're photographing, making pictures with a digital camera, it really doesn't make a difference when you're scanning things, images in. Okay, and I don't like to get too much into high bit versus 24-bit. It's like the abortion debate, and believe me, in the professional digital imaging world, that's how flammable that topic is when you bring it up. It's kind of crazy. Okay, now I'm going to open up the grayscale version. Okay. Okay, now the best way to examine, like our friend from the Hamilton County Library was zooming in, right? By the way, I gotta say that was a remarkable. Were you at the big session that was in this entire? Okay, it was very remarkable, and I came in. I missed a lot of it, but I just want to make sure, for those who weren't too sure, the quality, the detail that they got was incumbent or is based on the quality of the original. And back in the day when they shot on glass negatives, or even an 8x10, regular silver or a gelatin type, that kind of plastic looking negative, when you shoot something that big and that big of a negative, you get lots of detail. Okay, so you're not going to be able to take your 35mm picture of so-and-so's house to Eastman and say, do what you did for the library. Because I want to see everything. It's just not going to be there. Okay, I'm sorry. But, it's very important to shoot on a big negative to get that kind of detail. And those were the days. Okay, so this is the grayscale one. So let's jump to the descreened one. And then let's jump to the one that wasn't descreened. Okay, so this is the color not descreened, and this is the color descreened. Now it looks a little soft, looks a little fuzzy, but keep in mind too that the original was a tiny little obit picture. It was less than an inch. So actually, to try to make a portrait out of this in 8x10 is kind of ridiculous. But we can tighten it up a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the detail here. Now let's descreen. Oh my. Let's descreen with, let's turn off descreening, but make it color. Because I want to show you, remember I was telling you if you scan in color, you get more detail, okay? Now, while that's doing that. So as you can see, I mean, you have all these dots. And as you zoom out, notice when I zoom out, now there's a weird pattern. You zoom out more, there's another weird pattern. The descreening eliminates all of that. Okay, again, it just slightly blurs it. Okay. Okay, did I do that right? No, I was supposed to do, okay, I didn't do that right, excuse me. Okay, I'm gonna put grayscale and descreening on. There we go. Okay. Make that 4. Okay. And since it's warmed up, it'll be pretty fast now. And of course, the larger your image is, the longer it takes to scan. And when you put that descreening filter on, it slows it down even more. So if you ever notice that your pictures are taking an unusually long time to scan, check to see if you left the descreening filter on. Because if you descreen a picture that doesn't need descreening, you're going to blur it. Okay, so you want to be very careful. You want to be very careful. Okay, so here's our grayscale descreened. And then here's our color descreened. Now, let me close that one. Let me close this one. Okay, now, if you look in here, it's a subtle detail. But you can almost see the white of her eyes. And the grayscale, it's kind of muddy. Okay? Now, once I have it done in color, it's got this weird cast. But I've got the detail now. So what I'll do is using something like levels, okay, image adjust levels, or that's under, in elements, it's adjust lighting levels, is I will go into each color channel and bring these sliders at the end all the way in. Not done yet. I know you're saying yuck, but wait.
How many color channels are there?
Well, in RGB, there's 3. If it's CMYK, there's 4. Okay. And then you can do all kinds of things with the offset press, going to 6, 7, and 8 colors. Okay, so here we go. Before, after. Now, she has... Come on. Just brighten that up a little bit. Okay, so here she is. So that was before, after. We got a decent picture from it. So now if this is all we have of her, we put this in the pedigree chart like that. And it's acceptable. Okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. Now, I was going to do text. I want to do this obit real quick, the text. This is interesting. Another reason why we want to scan in color. And I'm going to fold it like this. We're not going to do the whole thing, but another reason. Okay, now, since I'm going to scan text, let me hit preview. There's no need to have the descreening filter. Because when text is printed on the newsprint, they use solid ink. Okay? They don't use halftone dots. Okay? So I don't need the descreening filter. But I want to put this in color. And here's why. If you look, I've highlighted portions of this obituary. Okay? In yellow and blue. Let me scan it. Scan. And it says 5 minutes. I thought I'd turn that descreening filter off. It shouldn't take that long. Yeah, that's what I thought. Less than a minute. It wasn't sure. It was a little confused. Yeah. Yeah, Epson is my favorite. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. But I do like their flatbed. Okay. Now, let's open this in Photoshop. Let's now, the handout that I gave you has basically it outlines the steps I'm going through. So you can follow these, and go and do that yourself. Okay, so let's clean this up a little bit as far as let's straighten it out. I know it's cut off, and we wouldn't normally do that. But just for time purposes, I want to get this. Okay. Now, in Photoshop, in the professional version, I can look at the individual color channels of red, green, and blue. In Elements, you can't access the color channels to preview them. Okay, so this is something that's a little up there for some of you with some experience. Okay, but notice because I scanned in color, looking at the red channel, it gets rid of you can't hardly see that yellow highlighter. So imagine if you had a yellow stain going in the middle of the picture. Maybe I should have done that here. And in fact, I think we have one there where I could do that real quick. And then the blue, see how that kind of or the green. And then the blue disappears. The blue disappears in the blue channel. And then what I can do is delete one of these or both of these channels, make it a grayscale. Let me do that real quick. This is for you experts, all you geeks. Okay, and then I'll convert it to grayscale from here. It's okay to go to grayscale, definitely, because it'll keep the file size small, but just scan in color. The point is scan good in, big, lots of color, and then later on in Photoshop or whatever editor you have, then you change it to grayscale. Okay? Okay. Yes?
Question, if you're working with an obituary that is yellowed and beige,
Yes.
then you'll apply always scan in color and
Yes, yes, yes. If you're working with any document, and I'm going to take, we have so many great documents here. But I want to get one with a nice stain. I think I have it here. Pardon me. I like this one. This one has some character too. I hate that. Okay. Now this is a regular document. This is not newsprint. This is on paper and ink. With paper and ooh, I lost my page. I'm sorry. I lost the page that I took it out of. I'm sorry.
I can find it.
Okay.
It was toward the back, I believe.
It was, yeah. Oh, jeez. It's embarrassing. Gee, Eric, I'd like you to handle my stuff. You're really careful.
There you go.
Oh, that's okay. So let's set the crop boundary. In fact, I'm going to move this slightly to the middle. Let's preview it again. Because the scanner edges crop off the image. Okay. Okay. Good. Got this here. And it's still kind of cropped off that side. If we weren't in class, I would go to get it, see if I could get it right again. If you notice there on this side here, it's kind of cropped off. But that's okay for now. All right. We don't need any descreening filters on. 300 DPI, the scale is 100% size, that's perfectly fine. All right, let's...
You left it on newspaper?
Well, I didn't check it. See, notice descreening isn't checked. Yeah. So as long as it's not checked, it won't apply that descreening filter. All right. So any questions on what I'm doing? Okay. Yes.
You're using a tablet to...
Oh, yeah. I'm using a tablet right here with a pen tablet instead of a mouse. I use because I retouch pictures for a living. I'm always working, so to use a mouse would cause tremendous pain, and I have all kinds of syndromes and tunnels and carpal whatever. You know, so I use this. This saves me. and I like this is actually the lower end tablet. I have a higher end one that I keep in the office. But this is portable. Yeah. It comes with a mouse too, but I don't need the mouse. Okay. So, and this costs, you know, a little under $100. Or actually maybe a little over.
And there's a special stylus?
And it's a special stylus, yeah, yeah, right, you have to use their stylus. I don't know, it's like a magic thing in there. I actually tried to take one apart and see what kind of device they have in it. It's still plastic, you know. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let me open this in Photoshop. Okay, we're going to zoom in. Now here is, we see that the ink looks purple, okay? But most likely that's the ink degrading. Most likely it was a very dark, black looking ink. And the paper was probably a little more brighter, a little less yellow. Let's see the date. Looks like 1886. Okay, and what language is this?
German.
German, okay. Yeah, look at it stamped, 1886. It's definitely faded out. All the ink is blue. Looks like someone tried to revise it up here in a different color. Okay, so anyways, let's try to make this one look a little better, okay? Let's help it. We want to be careful. We don't want to change it. But let's just say you want to make it a little more presentable. So again, we'll go into levels, and I'm going to adjust each color channel. Red, green, and blue, okay? It helps with the contrast, but we're still kind of yellow, okay? So let's move this mid-tone slider over, see if we can, doesn't help much. But I want to keep it like that because at least the contrast is better, okay? Now, let's look at this stain back here. And I'm going to examine it through the different color channels. Red channel, green channel, blue channel. Now it kind of disappears in the blue channel. Okay? And everything else because they got that bluish color to them, okay? Now the blue channel is very noisy, a lot of noise in there. The green channel is pretty good. And the red is pretty good. Now to get rid of some of that yellow, in this case, I'd like to experiment with totally getting rid of all the color. Because I think it might look good as if it was black ink, okay, on white paper. So I want to go to hue and saturation. And you have that. Oops, what did I? Okay, hue and saturation, and you have that in elements as well. And I want to pull the saturation all the way down to -100. I'm going to hit OK. Now it looks kind of like a grayscale. In fact, technically it's not, but it is. It has the same appearance that a grayscale image would have. Now from here, I can brighten it up. We can go back to levels or curves, whichever one you prefer. And I want to bring this highlight slider over. Okay. All right. A little bit more. Now, the only problem is when I'm doing that, I'm constraining the levels of detail. So when I do that, I lose some of the items that are kind of gray or not quite black. So I want to be real careful. Okay. Okay, so there's before, after. Now it's okay, but it's still, this paper is really dark, okay, and it's leaving us with, you know, to have something on plain white paper, it's really not working out too well. So, thinking on my feet, I know I can do this. I'm going to duplicate my background layer. And using, in elements, it has this as well. And I'm going to merge all these color adjustment layers that I made into one. Okay, and I turn it off, turn it on, just to make sure I'm okay. Now, wow, look at all that fiber in there. You see all that fiber?
Wow.
So all that fiber is dark, and now we have the text. Okay. Yeah, right now I'm stumped. Hold on. I literally, when I sighed like that, I said, boy, there's I stepped in a...
This is the challenge.
Yeah, so let's go to something called color range. I'm moving into a somewhat of an advanced mode here. And I apologize for you beginners. And I'm going to try to pick up just this stuff. Now, I'm going to hit OK. Well, let me see if I can get one more without catching up. See, I caught the fiber. Okay, let me try it right here. Okay, I'm gonna hit OK. Now, that red look is what's called a mask. Okay, it turns into a selection. Okay, now I'm gonna turn off. Go into my channels. I'm gonna turn off all the colors. So now all we see is the mask. Okay? I'm sorry, I see some of y'all starting to really zone out. If you want me to stop, I will and go on to the next one. But I thought maybe since I got into this, I should finish some of it. Okay, good. Okay, fine. Okay, now what I want to do, I'm going to go back to that selection actually. And I want to smooth, I'm going to smooth it out by about 2 pixels. And then I'm going to feather it. Well, let's first go back to that mask and see how that looks. That's a little better. It's a little better. Good. I like that. But now I'm going to go into levels just for that channel. And I'm going to constrain these levels of gray and black and white. Okay. I'm going to hit OK. Now, look here. Look here. This is a L. I know this is a L. It helps to be able to understand the language a little bit.
It's a B.
It's a Z.
B as
It's a
in
B.
boy.
Okay. So let's get a paintbrush here. A very small paintbrush. And let's, you think if I go up here like this,
Oh my God.
that helps?
Yes.
Okay. So I kind of completed that. It's not a very hard edge though. So let me get a harder edge. And let me undo that. That's still a little too soft. So let me make it 100% hardness. Okay? Make the brush a little bit smaller. And just come up here. Okay? We complete the letter here. Okay. And I'm just focusing on these letters, this group here. But if I'm working on your entire document and you say, I want it looking like new, this is what I would have to do. Okay? Now, I'm going to... Okay. Let me save this mask or selection. You can save selections in Elements as well. Okay? Now we got the selection going. Now I'm going to make a new blank layer. I'm going really fast, very advanced right now, so please forgive me. But I did want to finish, you know. I'm not going to be like some people and start a big mess and not clean it up. Okay? And I'm going to fill this blank layer with white. Then I'm going to load this selection that I made, make a new layer, and I'm going to fill with black. And that's going to fill just the area that's selected. You see those marching ants back there? And it's going to fill it. Now get rid of the selection. Okay. So here we are. Now you see there's a lot of junk around it. It almost looks like a photocopy. But this is something we can do. Okay, so turn before, after. Now, to give it a little flavor, a little style, okay, we can make another layer, and let's say we're going to fill it with just a little color, okay? And I'm going to pick a color. I'm going to pick something Pick a color. Somebody tell me. Don't say pink. You know, like what? Tan. Maybe a what? Kind of yellow color. Okay, let me go move this range up here. Let's go a little drab, a little. Okay. All right. It's filling there. Come on, come on. Okay, then what I can do is give it a little texture.
That's everything you just took out of it.
Yeah, but just you know, just to help it a little bit if you want. But we can always turn all that junk off. It's no problem because it's in a layer. So let me get rid of that. Make it monochromatic noise. I'm adding noise to it. That's a filter in Photoshop that you can access. Then I'll blur it a little bit. Let's see if I blur it a little bit. So, you know, it kind of looks like scrambled eggs back there. But yeah, it's something we can do. Okay, you can.
Say if you didn't like that olive color, could you make it a little bit more ecru?
Yeah. So we'd fill it. We'd where'd my mouse go? Okay. Let's fill it with, let me go up here a little bit. Well, let's see what happens here. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. But we can do a lot. I can bring the opacity back on that a little bit. You know, something. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Yes.
I was following most of what you were doing, except when you did the selection. I didn't see how you did that.
Okay, I use something called color range to sample it. I'm sorry that I did that actually because it's really advanced but I mean I don't even teach that in my basics class. But I saw a problem and I stepped in it. I said, I can't just leave. And y'all said they wanted me to finish it. It was their, I was going to leave it.
Now you wouldn't go in and take out that ink blot?
Yeah, I would take out those ink blots. Okay, just a real quick one that's a real simple thing. What tool do you use that to get these spots, get rid of the spots? Somebody? The clone stamp, exactly. So that's exactly what I would do. Or in this case, since the text is in its own layer, I would just erase it using the eraser tool. Okay, so
If you don't do
see,
this, if you don't do this every day,
see. Yeah. It helps to do it for a living, but as a student, though, you can practice, and you can do it. That's what I mean. You're not going to walk out of here and be able to do it. Okay, 9:45. I want to jump ahead to. I did put this back in its right place. I want to jump ahead. We're going to skip plain text. Original certificates, we kind of did that there, although that was a document. Hybrid certificates. Do you know what I mean by that? Okay. It has two different elements on it. Like this one is my wife's mother's naturalization. So there's a photo and there's a document. Okay. So in this case, I might make two separate scans. I would scan overall the whole document, and then I would scan just the photo. Okay. And then I could use that photo by itself, or I could work on the photo independent from the document and paste it into the document in case when I work on the document I end up ruining the photo because it may look a little different. Okay? Okay, so let's save this one just in case you want to look at it later. Okay, the next part I want to get is microfilm. Okay, when you're dealing with census records on the microfilm, and you'll get all kinds of weird documents, whether it's you made the copy, someone else made the copy, it came through the email, came through the mail. We can't make it look like the original without a whole lot of work, but we can make it more presentable, okay? And that's really, really, really important when you're giving these records to family members who are not into genealogy like you are. And that's all of them, generally. Okay? You know, they won't appreciate it. And in some cases, you kind of want to give it to them in a way that's suitable for framing, if possible. Okay? So maybe I shouldn't have saved this one. My little laptop doesn't really have a lot of RAM. Yeah, so it's slow. So I'm going to quit. We're not going to need to use the scanner right now. So let me go to my graphics here. Come on. And I'm going to open one that I did. This customer gave me a whole bunch of these census records, and he wanted me to just make them presentable, you know, clean them up. And on census records, did you ever notice that usually it's only a couple lines that you're really interested in? Everything else is kind of irrelevant. Okay, but at the same time, you don't want to destroy the character of the image. Okay, well, here's the original. This is what he gave me. Okay, so first of all, this was inverted. Okay, this is basically a negative. Okay, so what you can do in Photoshop, you can reverse that easily in one step, in Elements as well. Okay, and it's adjust. I forget exactly how it goes in Elements. But in Photoshop, it's image adjust invert. Okay, and that helps. Okay, all right. Now what I did, here's the finished product. Okay, here's the finished product. So here we go one step at a time. Okay, this is what you saw before. Now we know that this is the area the customer wants. He says this is all they need to know. Now, of course, there's the charts up. There's up here is the heading of the columns, right? But you can see that. Okay. So first thing you want to do is get rid of what you know is. Hold on. Okay. First thing I did was fix the contrast. Okay. And remember what I did in levels, okay? You do the same thing here, okay? In this case, I used something else called curves, but do the same thing with levels the way I showed you by bringing them sliders real close, okay? Now, sometimes you got to know what's on the record. So I had to actually work with the customer. I had to send him a proof, say, okay, did I get it right? Did I chop something out? Whatever. He said this was fine. Okay, now, after I do that, I do the spotting. So in this case, after I increased the contrast, all I did was paint white all over these areas. You see what I mean?
How did you select
There's a
just
paintbrush.
those areas?
Well, in this case, I didn't select anything.
Okay.
Like you saw me did with that manuscript. That I didn't select anything. In this case, I just enhanced the contrast. Because see, if you look, there's text coming from behind.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was on the back and it came through, but I think it's coming from behind.
Yeah.
You deal with census records more than I would. So you know the idiosyncrasies. But here's the contrast. So I just paint out with the paintbrush. There's a paintbrush tool, and just paint it out, paint it out, paint it out. Okay? And then, after I do that, then I make a selection with the marquee tool, and Elements has this as well, and it's just created a click and drag, and there's that boundary. I'm going into mask mode and then back to selection just to show you, okay? And then after I did that, I created a color layer, okay? Now let's see if I'm going to redo it here with levels. I inverse my selection so that instead of that area in the box being selected, everything else outside of the selection is inverted, and that's under Select Inverse. Then I go to my levels, and down here in these output sliders, I move them. See? And it ghosts out everything. You see that?
Yeah.
That's what I did. So I made it more presentable, and I cleaned up a lot of the junk. So here it is again, before, after, before, after. Okay, so it's 9:52. You know where I live. I have not adjusted. 10:52. I wanted to take. Was that okay? Did you get something from it?
Yeah.
Again, the handout is valuable. So if this class really just went over your head, well, you got a good handout, and you got a phone number and an email address. You can contact me anytime. Okay? And we have questions.
Mine's a fast one.
Okay.
I got a copy of a news obituary.
Okay.
So it's not the newspaper, it's a copy of the newspaper. When I tried to scan that in, talk about ghosts. I mean, I could hardly see anything that was on it.
Okay, when you tried to scan in that newspaper obit, you could hardly see anything. Was it just like white?
Yeah.
It was probably your settings.
Should I take like a picture of it first and then try to do it that way?
Well, no, you shouldn't have to do that with a newspaper. Make sure that you're...
So it's a copy of the newspaper.
Oh, so the copy was bad. Well, you're dealing with a bad original. When you're dealing with a bad...
I think, here's the newspaper, it was a very good copy of the article.
Okay.
Take the copy of that article, try to scan it into my computer.
Okay. Okay, this is what you got to do. When you have it in your computer, in your scanner, I have a feeling you're in black and white mode or bitmap mode. You should be in RGB color mode, like I showed you, okay? Try that. If that doesn't work, call me up. Yes?
Very basic. How do you clean the glass on the scanner? I've tried everything.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, we did a little bit with that tomorrow, but how do you clean it? You just... No. You just try to take a good high quality paper towel or a nice washcloth, hand cloth that doesn't have a lot of fiber on it. Spray it with your Windex and just carefully wipe. Try not to spray the glass directly because the liquid will actually go underneath and it probably won't affect it, but it'll just look nasty.
Yeah, because I can't ever, it seems the edge.
Oh, yeah, edges are hard. Edges are hard, yes. Next question, yes.
Why didn't you do a higher resolution than 300?
Why didn't I do a higher resolution than 300? Because from 300 is a very good resolution. It's very standard. If you scan something at 100% at 300, generally you can enlarge it a little bit and you can store it without taking a lot of space. But should you scan in higher resolutions? Certainly, if you have the space. But that's just a standard. I'd rather give people a standard to start from, and then they can. But yeah, I generally 300 is everything I do. You had one more quick one. Okay.
One of my programs has sharpen in it. Can you do that?
Sharpen.
First picture.
Your scanner software has a sharpening filter in it.
What does it?
Don't use it. It sharpens the image. It builds up the contrast between the light and the dark pixels. But you want to do that in Photoshop or your photo editing program. Don't do it in your scanner. The only filter that's acceptable to use in a scanner is de-screening when you need to use it. Okay? We had another...
What's the disadvantage of a Hewlett Packard?
Disadvantage. I don't have a disadvantage for Hewlett Packard. I actually have an Office Center Pro Hewlett Packard that I use. It's just a personal thing with me. I've had really good experience with Epson flatbeds. Nikon is great for the slide scanner. We had back there by the door, yes.
Does your expertise include how to take a photo of a picture that's under glass?
Well, yeah, I can tell you right now. You have to make sure that your lighting, that you're not using a direct flash.
Right.
And you should shoot it outside in subdued or overcast outdoor light.
So that you don't get a shadow
Yeah.
on that glass.
But make sure, though, that when you're standing, that you're also in overcast light. Because otherwise you'll see yourself reflected in it. It can be a little difficult. I had another... Yeah, well, it's okay. You can do it. You're going to have to shoot it. Yeah.
Why do you save it as a TIFF instead of a JPEG?
Why save it as a TIFF instead of a JPEG? Because JPEG is what's called a lossy compressed format. Okay, JPEG averages out the colors, which basically affects the detail and makes the file size smaller. JPEG's good for emailing, putting on the website, but always save as a TIFF, then save a copy as a JPEG, use it, then delete it. Yes?
Again, what was the model of your estimate?
This is a V350. Now it's probably going to be phased out really soon, so I don't know if you'll be able to find it, so you just find the next level up. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
After you've done that magic on a document and you're publishing it, what do you say you did to the document?
When I'm done working on the picture, retouching the picture, restoring it. Yeah. Well, yeah, you could say in the information that this was restored by so and so. You know what I mean?
Color adjusted. I'm trying to figure out what
I would say restored. I mean, because but it depends. I mean, if we're completely manipulating it, well, then it becomes an illustration. Once you manipulate an image, it actually becomes an illustration. Okay, as far as a documentary thing. Okay, but when you're looking at the target mailer, every picture's been retouched. They're not going to put that it was retouched because the customer would say, "Oh, you retouched it, huh? It must not look like that," you know. So
restored sound.
Restored, yes, ma'am.
What do you do with the extra large pictures, like these long ones that were popular?
Oh, yeah.
Like a class photograph?
Yeah, tomorrow we deal with oversized.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you got to scan it in parts, or you got to shoot it. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
I'm sure there's not enough time to deal with this completely, but
Well, you can catch me in the exhibit hall.
my issue is, you can get a wonderful thing up there on your computer screen, and I can't get it that quality to go print out.
Well, what you see on screen isn't always going to be what you print out. It takes work to get that way. It takes practice and lots of ink and paper. Yeah, you could do it. It just takes time.
Stock in the ink company.
It takes time. So thank you. Thank you.